conversations on these issues because we have a very fundamental difference on some of this. And it really boils down to, I don't think there should be different classes of victims when the acts against the individual are the same. For example, if somebody came into this building and did something that would qualify against me as a gross misdemeanor and the motive behind it is greed, in other words, they're going to steal my wallet and take my money, versus if they come in and do the exact same act and their motive is they hate my religion, why in one case am I less valuable of a victim than in the other case?
Thank you for the question, Senator Hansen, and you always put the fun in fundamental disagreement, and I appreciate that. Listen, you know, I'm trying to stay away from having the hate crime discussion because we're going to have that in infinitum, right?
Not really, because we're actually putting in a law right here. So we need to have the discussion. This is a major change. So, yeah, while we laugh about some of these things, the reality is we are punishing people not only for the act of violence or whatever, we're punishing them for thoughts that we find repugnant.
So, Dallas Harris, for the record, Senator Hansen, I think that the fundamental thing here is that you probably only have to worry about being robbed or beaten up out of greed or anger. That's the difference. That is why we do this, because some people will get beat up because they mess around with somebody else's wife.
And that's currently a crime to beat somebody up for any, that's what I'm saying. And the motive is typically not something that you add additional punishments to because you disagree with the thoughts behind it, whether it's greed, jealousy, whatever the human passion may be.
Sure. Dallas Harris, for the record, understood, Senator Hansen, and I personally believe that in the United States of America, the right thing to do is to add an additional punishment if you are assaulting someone for an immutable characteristic versus they wronged you in some way. Those are two very fundamental things, and we must do whatever we can to discourage that type of behavior so that every American can walk around this earth and only being worried about getting robbed as opposed to getting beat up for their skin color or their sexual orientation or their religion. And I guarantee you, sir, that if someone came and inflicted violence on your family because of your religious beliefs, you too would be protected under this bill. But I want you to remember that you often think of other scenarios because that is not a threat that you live under every day. And that's not the case for some other people in this country. And we've got to do whatever we can to ensure that people can feel safe in their skin because they can't change that. And we don't have a free country. We simply cannot have a free America if people are afraid that they might face a crime because of who they are.
Agreed, but I would point out, thank you, Madam Chair, I promise I'll wind it up. This goes back to a debate that Senator Harris and I have regularly sitting next to each other on the floor. We just had a hate crime in Tennessee that involved an attack on basically Christian people because they were Christians by somebody that found that fundamentally wrong because they disagreed with it. To me, that is a clear hate crime. So it's a two-way street. But that one was a little bit out of the ordinary. In my opinion, no matter what the motive of the individual was, it's the act of murdering somebody that should be punished. And so I know we're getting off into the weeds a little bit here, but I think we're drifting off to where we're starting to do something that's fundamentally not only a violation of several things, but mainly we're going into the mindset of human beings and now punishing thoughts that we find repugnant. And I think that we should be punishing physical acts that people do irrespective of those sorts of things. So just want to get that on the record. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.